Those who grew up here or come to Santa Barbara never want to leave. They fall in love with this place. Its beauty is inherently linked to the ocean. Hugging the coast is the Santa Barbara Channel, home to thousands of species and inspiring its nickname, the Galapagos of North America.
I'm not super stoked on the tar. It's kind of annoying, like after a sesh you gotta go back home and scrub down with oil. It's not the most enjoyable thing to do, but I think a lot of the oil comes from the oil rigs leaking. I don't know, sometimes I'll just leave the tar on my body, be one with the tar.
Well, the reality of the situation is it's not coming from the platforms, it's coming from natural seepage in the ocean.
So natural seepage is oil that comes from underneath the bottom of the ocean, and that oil bubbles up from the ocean floor and it floats, because oil floats and then comes into the surface.
Visitors and locals alike are accustomed to encountering tar on Santa Barbara beaches. The tar is an accepted nuisance of the beach culture here.
I'm Matt Rodriguez. I am from Ventura, California. Moved to Santa Barbara, and now I work for Santa Barbara Adventure Company. I remember tar seepage even more when I was younger, and I remember going up to it like, oh, this is so cool. It's all like just oozing out and liquidy, and you can touch it and play with it. When I get off work, I usually find myself coming back to my studio and just being me and exploring my art. I said I've been there for 5 years, and I've grown with the company, and personally I've grown and learned a lot from working there, and I intend to continue working there. I really enjoy my job. So Mike Cohen is our owner, and he started this company from the ground up. He built it out of his garage, and he moved out from there into a warehouse, outgrew that warehouse, and here we are right off of State Street, in the public eye. And he's a great guy, great family man.
Yay! We do a variety of trips all in the Santa Barbara area. We do kayaking, biking, surfing, wine country tours. Our biggest tour is out at Channel Islands National Park. We do sea cave kayaking in partnership with Channel Islands National Park and National Marine Sanctuary.
The best time of a day at work, and this happens often, is just like I'm there at a moment and look around and I'm like, wow, I'm getting paid for this. This is awesome.
We take about over 10,000 people a year come on tours with us. One thing I've learned through all these years is being an outfitter is that from whale watching to the Channel Islands to our mountains, it's all tied to clean environment and clean watershed. So it's very important. Tourism is, it's a big economic driver.
There's tar in probably every single one of our kayaks, so we spend time and obviously resources to remove that and to maintain the equipment.
Natural seepage has been occurring along the coastline here, for thousands and thousands of years. It's just a part of the natural environment. And so though the total volume that may be seeping out over time is quite large, the rate at which it's seeping out in relative to the channel as a whole, is actually relatively insignificant. And thus far, the research that's been conducted to determine what type of impact seeps have has not identified many very significant impacts of natural seeps.
The Chumash pitch their canoes, their Tomol canoes, with tar. It's been a part of the channel forever.
Tar was a really important part of the technology, the material culture of Chumash people living in this area for a very long time. They used it for repairs, for caulking not only baskets but other kinds of things. They invented the plank canoe, which is a canoe that's actually made of boards that are shaped, and then the planks are sewn together, caulked with more of this tar and pine pitch mixtures.
Since this historical use of oil by the Chumash, the extraction of oil in the channel has become big business. But sometimes, things can go very wrong. On January 28, 1969, a blowout at Union Oil's Platform A caused a spill that released over 3 million gallons of oil into the Santa Barbara Channel. Thousands of birds and hundreds of marine mammals died because of this senseless spill, but all was not lost. This catastrophic event sparked a national environmental movement.
A lot of our environmental protection laws that we take for granted now at the federal and state level were passed because of the 1969 oil spill. Because the spill happened so soon after these platforms went in, people here thought that was an end to offshore oil drilling.
Despite the growth in opposition, oil drilling is still a thriving industry in the channel today.
It feels like, to me, that about 50% of the population in Santa Barbara understand the importance of oil production and how we need oil production, and are willing to support oil production here in Santa Barbara County, including offshore. And it feels like probably about 50% wish it wasn't here and still want to use the product, but probably wishes it was coming in from elsewhere and not being produced in our backyards. So Veneco has an application in with State Lands Commission, they've had it for about a year or so now, to actually request that we modify the extension of that lease boundary and not drill new wells, but re-drill existing wells from Platform Holly so that they can bottom out into that extended or adjusted lease area.
So our clients are very concerned about that. We represent the Sierra Club, and we also represent two local groups, Get Oil Out, which formed because of the 1969 oil spill, and another local group called Citizens Planning Association that is very concerned about protecting our community.
Veneco's proposed project requires an environmental analysis. A draft environmental impact report, or EIR, is due to be released in December. When the draft EIR is released, a public hearing will be held for community members to voice their concerns. This is the most important time for the public to comment on the EIR. Regarding environmental impacts, Veneco believes that their project will actually benefit the environment.
One of the things that we are very certain of, and we have evidence to demonstrate, is that the oil production and the gas production from Platform Holly is significantly reducing the size of these natural gas and oil seeps.
When we drill a well into what you might call a new reservoir, the pressure underground is very high, and therefore any leakage from the natural source is reduced. Kind of like if you have a water hose, well, the water hose turned way up and spraying a lot is a new reservoir. Turn it down a little bit, not as much pressure, you don't get as much out.
And we believe that if we could drill more wells or re-drill more wells from Platform Holly into locations where the seeps are still the most significant, we will reduce them even further. That can only be a good thing for the environment, is to reduce this 6,000 gallons of oil that's seeping into the ocean every day and oiling 1,000 birds every year. Why would you not want to do that?
From the California spiny lobster to blue whales, the Santa Barbara Channel is populated with diverse wildlife, even several endangered species. This is why environmentalists are so concerned about protecting the channel and the possible impacts of expanded oil production.
So Veneco has said that by pulling out some oil and gas, they'll decrease the pressure in the reservoir, and that will decrease the seeps, and that will have this positive environment. Well, first of all, as I mentioned, the seeps have not had a significant negative impact to begin with. But second of all, we're not aware of any scientific evidence that links the two.
So currently, there's really no scientific consensus on whether or not seepage, in the channel as a whole, is reduced by the type of development that occurs at Platform Holly. In certain areas, seepage rates have declined since oil development has occurred there, but there's also lots of confounding evidence that suggests that it's by no means a linear relationship, and that those results shouldn't be extrapolated for us to assume that a similar type of relationship will exist for expanded oil development elsewhere.
While this environmental impact report was being prepared, a disaster occurred. Another oil spill. On May 19, 2015, a Plains All-American pipeline ruptured just north of Refugio Beach. At least 140,000 gallons of oil spilled from the pipeline, with a large portion making its way to the beach and coastal waters. Once again, Santa Barbara wildlife and its beaches were covered in oil.
So financially, it had an impact on us. We were on a very big growth clip, and then that flatlined, and so we had a loss of those tours immediately. And then I think it had a little bit of a negative effect on tourism.
Oil and gas operations themselves contribute to less than 2% of all of the oil that finds its way into the oceans. And that includes the big spills. Natural seepage is by far the biggest source of oil pollution in the oceans. It could be reduced by as much as 3 million tons of methane every year. To put that into perspective, that would be the equivalent of taking 100,000 cars off of the road every single day in terms of greenhouse gas emissions.
We don't believe that the project will decrease greenhouse gas emissions from the seeps because we don't believe that the project will decrease the seeps. But that's an issue we would like to see analyzed in the environmental impact report.
So it is a tough regulatory environment. If we get approval and are allowed to drill those wells, potentially cause up to $200 million in property taxes to Santa Barbara County.
Every time an oil project is proposed in our county, they talk about jobs, they talk about money, they don't talk about the risks, they don't talk about how much it costs to clean up an oil spill. And we just had a major oil spill up the coast here, not that far from Veneco's project site. So there are a lot of opportunities for the public to participate, but probably the most important is at the beginning of the process when that environmental impact report is being prepared. The draft of the environmental impact report is due to come out at the end of the year, and it's really important that people take a look at that. We are so fortunate to have an active community here, and we really need people to engage and speak up.
We just missed a huge catastrophe. If you had a real spill that went on for days, like the 69 spill or the Deepwater Horizon, Santa Barbara tourism would be devastated. That is a nightmare that we don't want to see. And I hope that this incident makes everyone, all the regulators, all the inspectors, open their eyes and say that we need to do more to keep these pipelines safe.
They should be concerned about the environment. And as an oil company, it's our responsibility to do everything that we can to protect that environment. And we will do everything that we can to protect that environment. And we will continue to do that. If the United States wants energy, and I think it sort of wants energy, it's what drives the economy, it drives commerce here. You need energy. And if you don't get it from here locally, you're going to get it from somewhere else.
We obviously need oil, but we don't need to have more spills.
It's home. So I guess that's what I'm painting right now. I'm painting home. This is where I live. This is my community. This is, where I've created memories and family and friends. So it's deeply connected to this place.
It doesn't matter what laws you have on the books. It doesn't matter how advanced the technology is with oil development. It's not a question of if there's going to be a spill, it's a question of when.